In the remote expanse of the Bonneville Salt Flats, where the earth meets the sky in an endless shimmer of white, a figure has been seen for over a century. At sunset, when the sky turns a fiery orange and the salt crust reflects the colors like glass, he appears, a man in a black suit. Tall, slender, and always too far away for anyone to make out the details of his face. But he's there, standing motionless, watching the horizon as the sun sinks beneath it. The legend began in 1912. Stories tell of a railway worker named John Miller, who was one of the first to report seeing the figure. According to Miller, he had been working late one evening when he noticed a dark silhouette in the distance, far out on the flats, a place no one had any reason to be. He assumed it was a fellow worker lost or stranded, but as the weeks passed, the figure appeared again and again, always at the same time, just as the sun dipped below the horizon. At first, the sightings were dismissed as a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the setting sun. But then more people saw him. Locals, travelers, and even the occasional race car driver would catch a glimpse of the man in the black suit, standing far out on the shimmering white expanse, always the same distance from whoever saw him, always at sunset. One of the strangest things about the man was that his appearance never seemed to change. Over the decades, from 1912 to the present day, the description of the man has remained identical. He wears a long, dark coat, his hat tilted low, and his figure remains slim and sharp. No matter the year, no matter the witness, his appearance has not aged. Those who've seen him up close, and there are very few, claim they felt a deep, inexplicable fear. Not because he looked dangerous, but because there was something wrong about him. Something otherworldly. In 1954, a group of college students set out to solve the mystery. They planned to camp on the flats and wait for sunset, hoping to approach the figure and find out who, or what, he was. Armed with flashlights, cameras, and notebooks, they parked their truck near the center of the flats and waited. As the sky grew darker, they saw him, just as predicted, standing far off in the distance. One of the students, Jim Edwards, was braver than the others. He took off running toward the man, convinced that all it would take was a face-to-face meeting to end the mystery. The others called after him, but Jim didn't slow down. For 20 minutes, he ran, his breath growing ragged as he neared the spot where the man stood. But no matter how fast Jim ran, the man remained the same distance away. It was as if the horizon was moving with him, always just out of reach. Exhausted, Jim collapsed on the salt, staring up at the fading colors of the sky. When he finally made it back to the camp, the others were waiting, their faces pale. They had watched Jim run, but in the distance, they hadn't seen him chasing the man. Instead, they had seen Jim running alone toward nothing. The man in the black suit had never moved. The students left that night, shaken. Jim never spoke of it again, and though he became a successful lawyer in Salt Lake City, he was haunted by that evening for the rest of his life. Over the years, the man became a local legend. Some said he was the ghost of a prospector who had died searching for silver in the flats. Others believed he was a time traveler, caught in a loop, doomed to repeat the same steps for eternity. Still others whispered of darker things, suggesting that he was a harbinger of doom, a manifestation of the land itself, or something far older than humanity. The sightings continued. In 1983, a woman named Catherine Weaver, an amateur photographer, decided to document the phenomenon. She spent weeks in the area, camping out on the salt flats and interviewing locals. Like clockwork, she saw the man appear at sunset, always far off, always watching. Determined to capture more than just a distant silhouette, she rented a small plane and flew over the flats at dusk, her camera ready. As the plane circled high above the area where the man should have been, Catherine snapped picture after picture. But when the photos were developed, there was nothing there. The salt flats were empty. Catherine returned to the flats several more times, always seeing the man from the ground, but never able to capture his image. Her obsession grew, consuming her, until one evening, she disappeared. Her car was found abandoned near the edge of the salt flats, the keys still in the ignition. Despite a massive search effort, no trace of her was ever found. After Catherine's disappearance, the sightings became more frequent, almost as if the man in the black suit was claiming victims. Some theorized that the figure was a trickster spirit, luring people to their doom. Others suggested it was merely an optical illusion caused by the unique conditions of the salt flats. In 2015, a paranormal research team from Colorado visited the area, hoping to uncover the truth. They brought advanced equipment, infrared cameras, electromagnetic field detectors, and audio recording devices. For 3 nights, they camped near the center of the flats, watching the horizon as the sun set. On the second night, one of their cameras picked up a figure, vague, indistinct, but definitely human-shaped. The team members grew excited, their hopes high. But as they reviewed the footage in real time, the figure began to move. Not walking, but gliding toward them across the salt, its black suit and hat becoming clearer with each passing second. The team's excitement turned to dread as the figure drew closer, its face still obscured, yet radiating an aura of malice. Suddenly, all their equipment failed. Lights flickered, cameras died, and the cold desert air turned biting. In a panic, the team scrambled to leave, abandoning their gear as they fled to the safety of their vehicle. One of the researchers, a man named Greg Shaw, later recounted the experience in an interview. "It wasn't just a figure," he said. "It was something else. It wasn't human. It was ancient. And it was watching us, like it knew we were there the whole time." The footage they recovered was corrupted beyond repair, but the grainy images of the figure's approach left a lasting impression on those who saw them. The team never returned to the flats. As of 2024, the legend of the man in the black suit continues to thrive. He's still seen at sunset, standing far out on the endless white expanse, his form unchanged in over 112 years. His origins remain a mystery, and those who've seen him up close rarely speak of it. The locals advise visitors to leave the flats before dusk. They warn that the man is not a ghost, nor a harmless legend, but something far worse. Something that has always been there, waiting for the right moment to step closer. And if you see him, they say, whatever you do, don't run. Because no matter how fast you move, the man in the black suit will always be waiting on the horizon, watching, and waiting for you to come closer. In the silence of the Bonneville Salt Flats, as the sun sets and the salt turns to glass, you might catch a glimpse of him. But be careful. Because once you've seen him, you might never be able to leave.